to order. Good evening, everyone. Can you please stand up? And
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
okay, roll call, please.
Yoon Min,
Present.
Iniesta Garcia,
Present.
Sue Chung,
Here.
Helen John,
Yes.
Kevin Lin,
Here.
Rebecca Lee, Anthony Kim,
Here.
William Kim, Charlie Shin,
Yes.
Dr. Cirillo,
Here.
John McCann,
Here.
Eliana De La Cruz.
Here. Okay, in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 PL 1975, I hereby state that adequate notice of this special meeting has been provided to the public by a written notice dated April 11, 2023, date of published notice. The meeting notice has been emailed to all staff members at the District 3 school locations, communicated to at least one of the board designated newspapers, filed with the border clerk of Palisades Park. So now we are going to have a budget presentation. So Dr. Cirillo and Mr.
Kondowski.
are going to present.
So if you can bear with us for a few minutes, and thank you for being here this evening. As part of our April meeting, just for the public edification and for that of the board, we have our annual school budget hearing. This is about 10 slides. We will open it up to the public for any questions, and this will be made available on our website as well. Mr. Kondowski, Ms. Gillis, who was our interim business administrator, and I have been working on the budget with the finance committee since probably the month of November. We always are conscious of the local taxes because, as you will see on these slides, the taxes in our local government are made up of the majority of our tax levy. Our state funds and our federal funds make up very little percentage of our taxes. Being that we are no longer an April board election borough, our 2% cap is what we are fixed at. So what we will show you and will allow for questions is our budget hearing, but please be aware, this has already been tentatively approved by the board for submission to the county last month. Has already been approved by the county. And when I say the county, there are representatives of Bergen County that work for the Department of Education. They have approved our budget, but the public of Palisades Park has the right to be heard and ask questions of our budget for next year, effective July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024. So we will go through this, and again, if there are any questions, we will allow that for the end, please. So as you can see, this is clearly a very short, simple budget presentation. We will allow for any discussion by board members and for the adoption, which has already been approved as a tentative submission, but tonight in finance, we will need a formal approval by way of resolution for our budget for next school year. Some challenges. When Governor Christie was in office for the state of New Jersey, he imposed a 2% tax increase on all municipal government. It was an opportunity to save districts money and allowed for districts to move from the traditional November election to April. Excuse me, vice versa, from April to November. Because November we always had a general election. So it allowed districts to save money on an election where we would have to foot the cost. Some of the very important features that were there were clearly that no district could go beyond 2%. We are not going beyond 2% as a school board. We have some very big increases in our budget, but again, they will not exceed 2%. The first one is that in 23-24, and I know it's very small print, we have $5,383,150, where in the 21-22 school year, we had a $4.4 million budget. And we went back a few years because COVID, obviously, keep in mind, you're only allowed to go up by 2% on your local tax levy. We have a difference of $949,000. I want everyone to be aware, it's public knowledge. Our teacher increases are at 3%. 3% for teacher increases without salary and benefits equates to a very large number of that 2%. In the 23 school year, 24 school year, ELA, English Language Arts, and Mathematics are up for readoption in curriculum. We have to update our curriculum in those two areas, which will obviously require much professional development and curriculum writing. Special education. This has been obviously something that is very, very concerning to many school districts, not just Palisades Park. But as you can see, last year, in the 22-23 year, we had 24 students that required services outside of Palisades Park schools. Next year, we are anticipating 29 students. 29, that's 5 additional students. Please, 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 please keep in mind, when we educate special education students in our district, for the most part, our tuition does not increase too much. When they are out of district, anticipate an increase of about $80,000 to $100,000 per student, inclusive of transportation and or a teacher aide. Those are big numbers in a small budget like ours. We are continuing to increase our bilingual education. As you know, our community continues to change. I want you to notice this is a fact. This is not something that I am making up tonight. 30% of our population in Palisades Park schools is English as a second language, ELL, English language learners, 30%. 20 years ago, I started in this community, we were about 12-13%. We've not only doubled it, but we've almost tripled it. 30% of our population is speaking a language other than English. We are continuing bilingual programs in all of our schools. We are working with the Department of Education to offer those programs to help those children better acclimate to our schools. As far as our buildings, I don't need to tell you. Clearly, this has been a very trying week, Joe. As you know, you're giving me a thumbs up. You deserve a thumbs up, as does everyone else. Christian, Alex, everyone that has been all in since Sunday morning when I got that first call about Lindbergh School. Clearly, our buildings are very old. We need to continue to bring them to more current state. We need to upgrade our facilities, but with a 2% tax levy, it's almost impossible. I promise you, there is no money that's being hidden anywhere. This is all transparent. This is why we do a budget hearing. Money is not being hidden. We need to continue to improve our facilities. Our roofs are not getting any younger. They're only getting older. We need to continue to fix those. Technology. We need to, as we've done in the last 2 days, deploy devices immediately when a crisis happens. We have a fire that we're dealing with. In the last 2 days, Christian and his team has deployed in excess of 300 machines to children. So that tomorrow, Friday, and I hope that's the end of it, but we don't know yet, we're able to do virtual instruction. The intercoms, the bells, the clocks, this is critical. Lindbergh Elementary School has an antiquated system. It's 2023. That building is almost 100 years old. We need to update everything and anything. Last but not least, we can't just continue to fix what's broken, but we also have to think about the future. And the future is internships. Eliana is sitting there. Eliana's gonna go to college next year. We can't just help them go to college. We need to prepare them so they're ready when they get there. What I can tell you wholeheartedly is, I worked with Mr. Garcia for a very long time this year, Ms. Baez. The team at the high school is really prepared. We are going to start to offer more internship programs in the community, in the surrounding communities, to better assist our students to be better acclimated for what the real world is like. That's our goal, that's our plan, that's all inclusive in this 2%. It's hard to believe, we're making it happen. So in our 2%, there's a lot going on, I promise you. We are fingers crossed, hoping for the best, and again, thankfully to our board who approved our tentative submission, to our county who approved our budget, able to make this work. Alex.
Sure. This slide explains the general fund, which includes the local tax levy, you have the state aid, and the budgeted fund balance. That's all in the general fund, that $30 million number that you see there. The special revenue fund comprises of all our title funds, Title 1, 2, 3, 4, IDEA. And special revenue is made up solely of federal and state grant monies, which is allocated to the district. So the board is very cognizant to make sure that we put away some money to fund capital and maintenance reserves in order to try to reduce or not have any future referendums. So as you can see, we don't have any debt at this point, and we don't anticipate any debt moving forward.
Thank you. This is a very important slide. I think I am a visual learner. Again, there are many types of learners in the world we live in, but as you can see, anything in blue is made up of our property tax levy. Alex just talked about the $33,554,753. That is our budget. That is what the Palisades Park Schools operates under. I want you to know of that $33,554,753, Palisades Park taxpayers are responsible for $25,854. $25,854,000 comes from the local taxpayers. Our state aid, as you can see, is $2.6 million. Special revenue is $3.2 million, approximately, of course, and our fund balances are $1.6, with some extra and other aid that's being offered to us. That might be by way of rentals of our facilities. But $33 million, 77% of our budget comes from local taxpayers. It's a very simple to understand graph. I think the next one will be very telling for anyone that has never had a school finance class. And there it is. When you look at your employees' salaries and benefits, salaries is 59% and stipends, so a coach, an advisor of a club, and benefits at 18%. I will approximate and say 59 plus 18, there's a lot of math people in the room. 77% is going to salary and benefits. So of that original $33 million number, 77%, almost 80% of our budget is gone before we start. It's salary and benefits. We break it down even further. Special education. We talked about the special education students that are going out of district. Almost $2.2 million in revenue on transportation, tuition, and services, whether it's OT, occupational therapy, PT, physical therapy, speech, or whatever their disability calls for. We have to service those needs. Operations and maintenance. This is a very, very, very big number, but $1.357 million. Heat, hot water, electric. That's just your operations and maintenance. OT-PT related services, I talked about that briefly with special education. There's a separate line, $850,000 approximately for special education services, transportation, we've all heard about it. A few months ago, we talked about it. I tried to do right by our own transportation providers in district. I wanted to give them a few extra dollars so we don't lose them, because they are so in demand. We are paying almost $773,000 in transportation for our students. And we don't offer busing for our own kids in district. That's for kids that are going out of district. That's for kids going to academy programs. That's an astronomical number. Instructional supplies, professional services, $880,000. It's all broken down to a T. When your budget, 80% of it is gone before you start, fingers are crossed that we don't have a crisis like we just did. And thank goodness we have insurance.
So this is probably the most important slide. It shows the effect on the local taxpayers. We took the original budget from this year and we compared it to next year's proposed budget. You see the $25 million, the local tax levy there. Total assessed valuations is the $3.7 billion, which we took from, basically the tax assessor gave us that number, and this is the total of all residential and commercial properties in Palisades Park. We did a calculation. You can see the general fund, the percentage, and the tax assessor also gave us the average residential price of a home. This current year is about $723,000. The difference from this year to last year would be an increase to the taxpayers of $47.26.
So on an average home in Palisades Park, as assessed not by the school, by the town, at $723,000 approximately, the homeowner would pay an additional $47 solely for school. We don't know what the increase would be in the borough, but on a home assessed at $723,000, if the home is assessed higher, that rate obviously would be higher. These numbers are determined by the municipal government and the borough of Bergen County. Okay? We've worked with Mr. Apicella, Mr. Anzavino. These numbers are derived from their offices. And that pretty much concludes our presentation. I know it's a lot to swallow, a lot to digest, a lot to absorb. If there are any questions, any comments, any concerns, please, we will do our very best to answer them. Yes, ma'am.
So you said 2% per year, and I'm assuming that's not stacked, so it can never exceed 2% of the entire tax
So,
base?
so that's a great question. Can it exceed? There are opportunities where you can exceed 2%. In the event you have an increase in your student enrollment, there can be an opportunity to seek more than 2%. If you have an increase in health benefits, you can seek additional additional funds, an increase of 2%. We are not seeking anything more from the borough than 2%.
And that would be sought through the Bergen County executives, or that would be sought through
That
the
is
town?
strictly through the town of Palisades Park, the 2%. We're not seeking anything more or anything less than the 2% that is permitted to us.
And is that reflected in the explosion in student population that we have? Because obviously we're educating more students than we were.
So the reality is we are not eligible this year for any adequacy of enrollment increase. In the past we have been, and we have sought those numbers and dollars, and we have received them. This year we have not increased our population by way of asking for additional funds.
Okay.
We are strictly seeking a 2% as permitted by the law and the statutes.
Did the funds include whatever additional funding we potentially could receive for the pre-K program? Is that reflected?
No.
Or is that separate and distinct
Separate
from this?
entirely.
Okay.
So what we were looking at, the 2% is only on the local tax levy. So if the tax levy is $25 million, we'll use a round number, 2% of that would be $490,000. Jonathan, am I wrong? Help me out. Oh, it's 500, sorry. We can only get 2% on the local tax levy.
Okay.
We cannot get 2% on what our federal money is, our state money is. We only get 2% on what the local tax levy is. Yes, Mr. Shin.
Okay, for example, there is some say that like 400 unit apartment is coming to Palisades Park.
Yes.
And let's say like 100 students coming from that unit, it's almost 7% of the student of total Palisades Park school.
Yes.
Then still 2% is applied.
Not necessarily. To Agnieszka's question, when we submit on October 15th of every year, we submit our student information demographics to the State Department of Education. There is called a snapshot, October 15th. If they realize that your student enrollment has increased, you can seek additional money in excess of 2%. We have not gotten an increase of enrollment. We are at 2%. In the past, we have been eligible for an increased enrollment.
Okay, what is the percentage of the school budget compared to the total the town budget?
I apologize, I am not familiar with the town budget. I believe a few years ago, there was a presentation, with the town budget. Mr. Kim, do you know what the town budget is?
Yeah, about 27 million.
27 for the town,
27.5.
about 20, what was our tax levy, 25 here?
25 million.
So I guess it would be fair to say that the borough of Palisades Park is approximately in excess of $50 million. We are about 50% of that. It sounds like they're a little bit higher, we're a little bit lower.
Can you tell me your knowledge of the
You're
other
trying to set
towns?
me up, buddy.
Other towns, the percentage of the school budget compared to
My
other
knowledge
towns?
is I am going to make it work. I'm gonna be politically correct. If we received more, I would be
Just
very
give me a
grateful.
fact, okay?
I don't know, 60%. Jonathan is the auditor, he might know better than me. I don't know, Mr. Shin. I've worked here for 20 years. I anticipate 2%. I am grateful for 2%. I'm very mindful that taxpayers want a quality education. And we are doing our very best to provide that. Should we get more? I wish we got more. I'll leave it at that.
To my knowledge, okay, most
Yes.
of the other towns, the school budgets like more than 55% or sometimes more
I said
than
60.
60%.
I apologize.
Yes,
I
right.
said that.
Yes. But just our town, the school budget is only 50%.
A little bit
It's-
greater, I'm sure.
Doesn't sound like reasonable, okay? But there are some case, we even, we didn't increase 2% budget in previous years, right?
Yes.
That one is okay, if we don't increase 2%.
I'm gonna tell you, it's not okay. We have continued increases in our costs. If we continue to increase our salaries and benefits as we are doing, it's not financially stable to run our school district. We have to continue with the times. I don't wanna take anything away from our children. I can't reduce the cost of the lights, of the heat, of the water. Those bills are gonna come in regardless. I think we have to continue to work with the local government. We have been doing much better, I promise you. And we have to be mindful that escalation continues to increase. And hopefully we can have better communication and, by way of that, increase cost in the future.
So I just have a question that Mr. Kim mentioned that the town budget is 27.5 million.
Yes, sir.
And our budget 25 million, right?
Yes.
So there is total $52.5 million, right? So our budget, proportion to town is like less than 50% that allocated to us.
As per his point, yes.
I think that's, I don't know, that's way too low, like even less than 50%.
So we are stuck between a rock and a hard place. When we are limited to a 2% tax levy.
But that number is correct or not?
I can't speak for the town number. I trust that Mr. Kim is right. I trust that we have our employees, we have to continue to pay their salary, their benefits, but we also have to maintain our bills. We have to ensure that we are not just satisfied with status quo, that we wanna build. I wanna bring more programs to our schools.
the town's major, source of revenue is like property tax, right? So the property tax is the majority of the fund that's going into town, and I think it should be more than 60 or so, yeah, maybe 6 or 7.
I would love for that to be the case, sir. I would love to meet with the mayor and council and continue to
Well,
ask
just
for more.
simply, some
I'm
kind of
trying.
simplification,
I'm trying.
that number is right now. Even less than 50% of the fund already.
I appreciate Mr. Kim, I appreciate his honesty, I think we will continue to work closely with them. And if, please, answer.
See, when you see the budget, it was $43 million, but tax levy was $25 million.
That's right, yeah.
When I say $27 million, it could be the overall budget, not a tax levy. So that, I have to find it out.
Yeah, looks like to me it's way below. It's like a $2.50.
Because we cannot compare such a way. We just said the 25 million.
No, I think,
27 million, only because you guys are on the tax levy for 25 million. And 27 million could be not a tax levy, it could be a overall
Yeah,
budget
there's
like
other,
$33
there's
million.
other source of revenue, but majority of, source of income from town is like tax levy. And, I don't know whether 2014. It's kind of to me like,
So you cannot compare like that.
Kevin, I can tell you that, I'm hopeful that we can continue to have good relations with the mayor and council. There are opportunities for us to share costs, whether it be via security, whether it be via transportation. However, we can continue to work together, because it requires a little bit of effort, but a lot of strategy. And I think there's possibility that working together, we can make this happen. I think we can continue to help each other. There are opportunities to do that, and I think we're trying to do that. Yes, Mr. Shi.
So the next year, the number of students will be increased about by 2%, right? From 100.
Not necessarily, I hope not.
You estimate like that because
Not 2% increase in students.
from 1588 to 1623 is 2% increase, the number of students. On North, the number of students here.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're looking at.
Even the students.
So is this on user-friendly budget? You were looking at a number of 15 on, this is 2021.
Yes,
We are looking at the 2023, so that's in 2 years.
okay.
I'm sorry.
So, everything has been increased, okay?
We are anticipating an
And even
increase.
the number of students has been increased. But, if the budget is limited to 2%,
Yes,
but the teacher's salary has to be increased
it doesn't, it has to be
3%.
negotiated.
3%, right?
Well, it will be
Then the
negotiated.
quality, then the,
Don't tell them what you're gonna give them yet, they're in the audience. Then we're finished with negotiations.
okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, next year is 3%, that's already established. Next year is the final year of the
That's the money we
contract.
have to pay, like, in this, from this
Yes,
budget.
in this budget,
3%
3%.
increase.
Amanda, not anything less than that.
So everything has been increased, but the budget is limited, so the
So-
quality of the Palisades Park School students should be.
So to my point, Mr. Shin, what I want to do, we have private security in our schools. There's an opportunity to work with the borough and have the borough maybe help supplement some of those costs. And instead of it coming from our local tax dollars in our budget, maybe they have extra funds and they can pay for that. There are ways to work together. And I'm willing to do that. I'm never going to say, no, thank you. If they want to give us more, please do. Stephanie, welcome. Good time. You have a check? Do you have a check?
I wish I could. I'm fighting every
I'm
day.
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so your teachers, okay, what we have to do in detail, okay, not like transportation or something,
Yes.
the sharing of the cost between town and school.
Yes.
Okay, say something in detail, then we have to work, okay?
Absolutely.
According to this situation, we have to work,
100%.
so.
The 2% does not help us. I want to be clear. when you're given a 2% tax levy and a 3% increase, 3% is always gonna exceed 2%. Let's call it what it is. But we also have to make sure that we are not compromising any student programs when we continue to do what I believe is right for our faculty and staff. 3% cost of living continues to increase. That's negotiable. That's something that the team and the union negotiates. That's not something that I'm gonna stand here and tell you, give them less, take more. That's not my place. I'm a neutral party in that. But 100%, we have to be very mindful and think outside the box. How can we make this work? And we are doing much better than we have. I promise you.
Dr. Cirillo?
Yes, sir.
I just want to make clear that when I said about $27 million, that was the total budget. Your total budget is not 25 million. Your total budget is $33 million. So I think that's where the miscommunication comes out from. So if you want to compare 27 million, then yours are 33 million. So we should compare like that.
So, Councilman Kim, so the portion of, compared to total the town expenditure, the percentage of the school budget against the town's budget, is it compared to the other towns, is it fair amount, fair portion?
I do
you
not
think?
know. I don't know what other town is.
You have 30 years with the education member,
Yes, I
and
do.
you have
I
10
don't
years
know the
experience
other
in the
town.
government.
We would always ask for more, but at 2% we can't get more unless there is an adequacy adjustment.
And that, I'm sorry, that's designated by the state?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
So it's not the towns, it's a state regulation.
that is correct. If there was a referendum, something according to those statutes, we can ask the taxpayers for additional money. She said, no, I didn't even ask yet. Mama mia. Just imagine your daughter was still gonna be in school. Man, she sold you out. All right. Now, listen, there are options, there are alternatives. I can tell you wholeheartedly, I wish we had more. We are not, Mr. Weiss is gonna speak in a few minutes about our audit. He pretty much, as an outsider, came in and evaluated all of our books. And we are extremely transparent. There is nothing we are hiding. And if you find it, let me know where it is, please, because I can't find it. But with that being said, it's not easy. We make it work. We have a resilient faculty, staff, and most importantly, our students. And we continue every day to get better than the last. I leave it at that. Yes, Ms. Chung.
This is relevant to the budget, but prior I emailed to you just a separate question regarding the lease agreements between board and the town. You said it has been terminated and
What was?
the lease
The lease with the
of the
with the
school
field?
and the
Yeah,
field.
so we had an agreement with the Borough of Palisades Park for the use of the fields. The schools are owned by our municipality, they're not my schools.
Right. So if
we
we go
are-
back
we
on
are
the
speak-
lease, that will affect this budget?
Not necessarily, no, because our borough is very mindful. They're not necessarily renting those schools to us. The schools are free of charge to us from the borough. I go on record and say this, our building where I am located, central office, is a $1 a year charge. They're not charging us. They're very mindful that we are obviously tight on funds. Regardless, we do need to renew a lease agreement with the borough. Thank you.
When?
I asked for that, and hopefully the attorneys can work together to do that. Sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions regarding the
Does
budget?
anyone have any questions? If not,
Yes.
Who determine how to increase so we could get more from the school to the town? How we do that? Because as you mentioned already, we need more. And we see that we need more for our school for all different levels, to get more. school bus for the student, for athletic, more. So how can we ask for more from the school to the town? And why we haven't started doing that, although board haven't started doing that in advance, because we see that we need more.
I think respectfully, I'm not here to defend anyone. I know my responsibility. It's to report to 9 members of the board. It's to make sure that our 1,850 students are in a good place. I think we already started that. I think, one perfect example, Eliana, are you going to the prom? The borough has paid for their buses. I'm not paying. The Board of Education is not paying. We are fortunate. The borough has picked up the tab. We are starting to make those conversations, not just once in a lifetime, but every year. We need this help. Additionally, if, like Mr. Shin said, if our increase in enrollment continues to rise, because there are more homes being built,
No, but I mean.
we
if
can get more money
If we could
from
get more,
them.
not for one-time occasion like that, and that's very nice from the town to provide that. That was one time.
But it's not
given
one
to-
time. They've been doing it every
But
year
yeah,
now
no,
for the
but I
last few
mean,
years.
one time a year, but I need to get better quality, because we are now living, but to live better, to have better quality. That's my thing. We could have one car who move us to different places, but if we wanna have a better car, how can we start getting that from what the sources that we need?
I think
so we
you know
can
me
get it?
very well. I'm not here to tell you something that is not true. I always tell the truth. I have had meetings with them. I have had meetings with architects. I've been begging for this building, for the pre-K program to expand. Guys, I don't like to put the cart before the horse. We are moving in the right direction. The borough is meeting with me, and we are meeting to make this expansion a possibility. I promise you, I just hope that we continue to move in the right direction. We have 2 council members here. I don't think they would be here if they're not working with us. Fingers are
No.
crossed.
Yeah,
We're working,
I
we're
really-
moving in the right direction, I
we are in
promise
the
you.
urgence of, those numbers are there, but the cost of living is getting more, and our kids need more to be more prepared for the life that we see is
Absolutely.
coming. So we need more technology, we need more things for the kid, more, to get more prepared athletic too. That when our kids go to any sport,
Colleges and universities, that
they
they're
could go more
prepared.
prepared, but that
Yes.
take, need more coach, that would need more involved, more everything. That
I
the
agree.
kid, if the parent cannot afford to do that, that the school can provide that and go prepared and feel like we send them to fight in other places that they could be prepared and not feel embarrassed. So we are very low in that, not because the school don't wanna do it, it's because it's no money.
We're working. I promise you, it's not something that we say, forget about it. We're getting better, and I promise you, today is better than it was yesterday.
No,
I'll leave it at that.
I hope I can see a little bit before my daughter leaves.
I hope before I die.
Like my daughter have 3 years left, so I hope, I
She's
want it
not in
better.
pre-K, so I don't know, I'm sorry.
I hope that it's getting a little better.
Yes, sir.
May I ask you a question?
No.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I saw the about $2.5 million altogether for special ed.
Yes, sir.
for, transportation.
You wanna pull that slide up, Alex, please?
So my idea was that, long time ago, Ridgefield High School had their own special ed
Wonderful
schools.
program.
Yeah,
Receiving students from all over the county.
that's right. So they saved a lot of money by doing so.
Absolutely. And brought money in by bringing students in.
Yeah.
So my question is, how about we? Is
Do
it
you want a
possible?
building that I don't know about? Like, what do you?
We need the facilities.
If
Yeah.
we have a facility, do you
Yes,
think
sir.
it's possible?
Absolutely. Anything is possible.
So
And I
let's
never
talk
say-
about it later on.
I never say everything is possible, but it requires everyone to work together. It requires a vision, a
Yes.
plan. We can't just say, hey, Richfield has a program. I'm sending students to Richfield every year. Part of this $2.2 million is our money going to Richfield. And not only Richfield, but other special education programs. That's our tax dollars. But when they have, respectfully, better programs for special education students that require more close attention to service their disability, they should go there. And until I can promise those parents of our children I can do the same,
Yeah.
and not only our students, then I can start bringing other.
Right.
I don't have the facilities, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Spalazzo's house might be for sale. I can't afford it. No, forget about it.
I wanna get out. That's all.
Any other questions on our budget? Jason, we can,
Okay, we can talk about it.
I'm glad you have like a business mind lately.
I just want to
Yes,
mention,
Ms. Chang. Thank you for
that
being
every
here.
year,
Yes.
while I was serving, I remember that we were short, you know, we never really had enough. But so far, I'm really glad to say that every year, we came up with some, whatever revenue that was the grant writing, or, you know, the free grant from state, or whatever the reason, it's been managed, so that's a miracle, you know?
And our fingers are crossed and we're very lucky. I had this conversation with our principals today. I had a meeting. We were very lucky, unfortunately, due to COVID, to receive a lot of money. But that money expires really soon.
I know.
And when that money expires, then what? We have to think outside the box.
But
Programs,
I remember-
facilities, tuition.
Yeah,
Just like other people are being very creative, we have to do the same thing.
exactly, so it's been managed, it's a miracle. And also, I heard, when I was serving from the borough, the mayor, ex-mayor, they were saying like, you guys never asked for money.
How do you want me to send them the letter?
That's what I
I'll send a
said.
pigeon there right now.
That's the reason why I do the question.
I
Yeah, I
am
said, like-
only permitted to 2%. I can tell you that the finance chair is sitting on that dais tonight. We have talked about something called bank cap. I am very mindful and respectful to all the taxpayers in this community. I have been here for 20 years.
Yes,
I care about you all.
I know, and.
I know your kids might not go to our school anymore, or your taxes go to our school, and we have to be mindful of that.
And also, you know, my, recommendation or, the begging point to you is like, be all together and be more aggressive.
I think we are. I think we are.
Go
I don't
for
know
it.
about that young lady over there, but Miss Dela Cruz, I don't know what team she's on yet. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the continuation.
Didn't you have a
with,
meeting on Monday?
Yes,
You guys should speak more on Monday than on
Yes.
Wednesday.
but that's the
Continuation
reason.
from the Councilwoman Stephanie, that, but I have to say this, that the last few years, really what has happened is our superintendent has been getting a lot of grants for our school system. And really, I personally really appreciate that. We should give him a hand for that list. Let's give him a hand for that grant money, as well as the future grant. Because grant money is the one that you cannot get it from the taxpayers, that's from outside.
Thank you.
And he worked very hard, and he kept working for it. Another grant money is on the way, so, you know, we have to push him, you know. We give him a hand, so now we are pushing it.
3
Thank
months
you.
ago, he
Thank
talked
you
about
very
giving hugs. Now he's pushing. Any other questions regarding the budget hearing?
Just for the last thing,
Yes.
now that we have our liaison from the board.
Borough.
They are working close with the school, and thank you.
I talked to Jason
So-
more than my wife.
Yes,
I know,
But-
keep calling me.
every time we go to the meeting, or every time I go to the town meeting, as I go villaging every month, the thing is communication. I see that it's communication as saying that you don't ask for what we need. So my suggestion as a parent, as a resident, as you know me for so many times, what is it? What do you need to communicate that we could get that help from town? This is me ask you. Can you communicate and say, this is what we need? And I'm pretty sure that you've been doing it. Or maybe now that we have different, board members, they seem like they really want to communicate with you very closely. can you communicate and say, this is what we need, because you know exactly what we need, because you've been here for so many years, you've been working here and making your best. Why not going there and say, this is what we need? As Mr. Jason Key mentioned last meeting, that you guys are working behind door. Yes, behind door, but I wanna see resort, I wanna see.
I hope I can tell you at
that.
next month's meeting, Naris, excuse me for interrupting. I hope I can tell you next month that we submitted an application. I hope I can tell you that we submitted an application for 7 new classrooms here. I hope I can tell you that.
That's
But right now,
what we from you.
that's the direction we're moving in.
Okay, and we need,
Fingers are crossed.
we need
I
that.
can't tell you that now. Next month, that's my plan.
Yeah, and like Mr. Jason King mentioned, instead of us giving those money, when this gonna be doing, because we can do it, but we needed to do it, it's not,
We're doing it. I
like,
promise you, we are doing
we
it.
have time. It's an urgent,
We're
it's a
getting
lot
there.
of things that we need to start doing it now,
We
as
are.
a community. And I know if they wanna do it, and I know you've been communicated, but at this point now, it seems like the communication is getting closer, so let's just make it happen.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. I know, push Jason.
Any other questions? I'm afraid to ask.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Soriano and Mr.
Come down.
Okay. Now we are going to move on to report of the board president. At this time, there is no report, okay? So next, letter E, report of the superintendent, if you want.
I need a drink of water, Mr. Chairman. So a very important and few items from me, and I will try to be brief, but I want to be clear. Clearly, on Sunday morning, we had an emergency at Lindbergh Elementary School. For those of you that don't know, unfortunately, we sustained what I was told at about 10:15 a.m. to be smoke in the building. Clearly, our classrooms and/or offices are equipped with heat sensors. Our hallways have smoke detectors. Because there was smoke in the building, that did not trigger our alarms for about 2 hours. The smoke started at about 8:40, 8:30, somewhere in the morning, is what we determined by way of our cameras. Fortunately, it was a Sunday morning. Fortunately, no person was injured. No student was in the building and subjected, or faculty and staff member. Unfortunately, we have a pretty big cleanup on our hands. As you may or may not know, as the community and board members know, we have closed our school for 5 days, minimum. We are going to conduct air quality tests on Friday and Saturday before any decision is made about our students re-entering this building. And I say students, but clearly, our faculty and staff will not step foot in our school if the smell and air quality is not sufficient. It has to be an acceptable range. The cause of that was clearly what we believe not to be suspicious, as determined by arson investigators from the county and the state and Palisades Park Fire Department. We think, as scary as this sounds is, an iPad was plugged into an outlet in a behind a file cabinet in a closet in the office of the media center. And the only reason we believe that is inside that outlet, wherever there's an outlet, the receptacles were still found in there. No wire was found, but the iPad was on the floor pretty crispy, is what I'm told. All I can say is I appreciate the ongoing efforts of people in this room, Joe, Chris, Alex, everyone that went above and beyond all weekend, yesterday, today, tomorrow, and on. Because this is not something that's gonna get done in the next 24 hours. I've had board members come with me into those buildings. Again, I'm just grateful that no one was in the building when this happened. With that being said, we are permitted by the Department of Education to conduct virtual instruction beginning tomorrow in grades 1 through 6. those days will be accepted. They will count towards a 180 days. Unfortunately, the law says you must complete 3 days of emergency closures before you can do a virtual instruction. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the students had an extended spring break, if you wanna call it that. But hopefully we are moving in the right direction. Additionally, we do have Mr. Weiss, who I will get to in a minute for our annual audit presentation, but before I do that, a couple of items in new business tonight. On June 6th, we have primary day. I spoke to our board president and vice president. I'm going to ask the board to consider a half day for our faculty, staff, and students on that day, out of an abundance of caution for security reasons. The general public comes into our buildings for voting. New Jersey SLA, that is a state-required testing. I am asking the board in new business for a delayed opening on May 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th for the junior, senior high school. Very, very important that in the April meeting every year, we announce our graduation dates. And for the high school, it's really easy and thankful for me to say, unless we have another emergency, water-related, fire-related, or otherwise, that as of right now, it's 7:30 p.m., 7:30 p.m. on June 21st. We will be at the county field. Lindbergh Elementary School, although they have to make up 3 days, we rent our county field, we rent our equipment at the county field, we set up that equipment, IT, stage, chairs, equipment. I'm going to ask the board to have a promotional ceremony at 5 p.m. on June 21st. The students will still be required to go to school until the 23rd at Lindbergh. They are required to do so. So, June 21st will be Lindbergh at 5 p.m., junior, senior high school at 7:30. The Early Childhood Center will be at 9:30 a.m. on June 20th. So far, they're the only lucky ones. They haven't had any snow days, emergency days, fingers are crossed. June 20th for ECC. I will communicate all of these dates on our website to all family members and throughout our community outlets. Before I go to Mr. Weiss, I guess one of my favorite parts of the meeting is my right hand over here, Ms. Dela Cruz. I hope she doesn't have a lot. Go, Eliana, the floor is yours.
So last weekend, the Hope Club's Korean tradition instrument team, the K-pop dance team, and the VHS dance team performed and volunteered at Family Touches Walk for Hope, which is a youth mental health program. It's really great for the students to get involved with things like that, since mental health is such a huge topic, especially being in high school. It's something that, you know, a lot of people suffer from, so it's good that they got to participate and volunteer in that. Little League Baseball started, and the high school students usually get the opportunity to volunteer and get community service hours for that, something that I'm a part of, so it's really good to get the community service for that, but also to volunteer and, you know, get a little bit of responsibility, because we have to be there at the snack stand, you know, get there on time and do all that. We started Spirit Week this week, which is a great way to end the month, since, you know, AP testing starts next week and students and teachers are getting prepared for that, and yeah, that's what we've been doing this summer.
Awesome. The good news is this: May we have a meeting, and June we have 2 meetings. Don't think you're leaving at graduation. You have 3 left. Understand me? And I know we keep on separating further and further. You're not going that far. 3 more meetings. Mr. Weiss, if I can please introduce Mr. Jonathan Weiss from BKC, our auditors from the school district. Jonathan has an audit presentation for us, please.
Good evening, everyone. It's our pleasure to come before the board to talk about results of operations for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. My name is Jonathan Weiss, and I led the audit team for this past audit season. Now, no matter where I go, no matter what I did this past summer, I can pretty much count on 3 things. Number 1, the effect of things getting back to normal after COVID-19. And especially this year, it was pretty pronounced. There's a sense of things getting back to normal, which I think is an overwhelmingly positive. Unfortunately, it comes with a couple negatives that we'll get into later in our presentation. The other thing that I look for is the effect of federal stimulus funds. Be it be it one of my bigger school districts like this, or a small little Lebanon borough in Hunterdon County with all of its 150, 200 kids. The effect of federal stimulus money is apparent, and it's going to be apparent in our presentation as we go along. Also, the effect of inflation on things. Right away, my eyes are drawn to things like transportation and things like that. We're paying more at the pump. Why would it cost less to put fuel in a bus to transport our students from point A to point B? And those three expectations materialized in all instances all summer for all clients that I looked at. Starting at the first page of our handout, going over revenues and expenditures between this year and last year. From 10,000 feet up, the district had about 1.4 million more in revenues compared to last year. As we talked about earlier, things getting back to normal means things like building use fees came back this year, and that's included in the interest and other miscellaneous item total. Student activities. Really haven't been able to do much with that the last few years, can't go on as many field trips and things of that nature. This is starting to get back to normal. The special revenue, the federal aid, specifically in the special revenue fund, we have a bit of a bump in there. As intimated earlier, all districts have received the ESSER grants and also the ARP ESSER grants. And this stimulus money lasts for about 3 years for each grant. And we're about towards the end of the life of one grant set and getting towards the middle or so and the life on the other one, on the ARP ones. And those are for specific purposes primarily. Things for extended school day. There's a lot of mental health provisions that are addressed in these grants, accelerated learning provisions, things of that nature. We talked about earlier, and as was illustrated earlier during the budget presentation, there was a bump in the general fund budget, 2%. No matter what the school district you go to in the state, 2% is the cap, with some exceptions that were outlined earlier to the board. Any questions, comments on revenue before I move down to expenditures? Okay, looking at expenditures, the downside of getting back to normal is that costs that were maybe less prevalent in the last couple of years are starting to materialize. Our student instruction and related services, we had a bump up there between this year and last year. And a lot of that is going to be for your therapy services, and in those instances, you're a victim of what your student's individual education program needs are. If your child's IEP determines the student needs it, be it occupational, physical therapy, or speech therapy, the district is on the hook. Pupil transportation, we saw a bump up in that this past year. One thing that I've seen with most of the districts, employee benefits were down this year. And that's a bit of a one-shot. And what I mean by a one-shot is that if you were involved in a New Jersey State Health Benefits Plan this past year, you got what was essentially a holiday or 1 month, the month of February to be exact, of free health benefits. That is no longer the case, and on top of that, the premiums have also increased, talking double digits. So it was nice while it was here, and now it's gone. Big increase in that capital outlay between this year and last year, and we've outlined some things for the board to consider in our explanations: the roof, flooring projects, lift, fencing installation, front stairs. Any questions, comments, concerns before I move on from expenditures? Okay. We're going to talk about surplus or fund balance a little bit now, and then we're going to talk about it a lot more towards the end of our conversation. And from 10,000 feet up, surplus increased by about 1.4 million this year compared to last year. The district has relatively healthy reserves in capital and maintenance reserves. And those reserves are important because things can and do break. And you want to give yourself those provisions to have funds available to you to not necessarily have to go to the taxpayer to fund things, specifically with your capital reserve. We also have to keep in mind that funds in the capital reserve are limited to what's in the district's long-range facility plan. And the maintenance reserve is eligible for expenses that are included in your comprehensive maintenance plan. So in other words, we kind of sort of have to budget for it, or there has to be a plan for it, we just can't spend it willy-nilly. So provisions are there. It's there